I really am committed on showing people that you don't have to look a certain way, be a certain size, be a certain weight, be anything. Like you can accomplish big ass scary goals if you are willing to put in the time and the work for it. And that's something that I I preach that. And I love that, my friends who are in my run club, they don't do triathlon at all. Like 5 of them have signed up for tries this year. And they were like, you inspired me to be able to be like, I can do this. And that's crazy to me. Cause I'm like, I don't think I'm that inspirational. Like I'm just a person going out and doing my thing, but I want people to believe in themselves, like be the best version of yourself. And that's just something that no matter how many times I say it or how many times I post about it, I hope people truly find their worth within themselves and realize that I can do this. Like I can do this.
That is Amanda Piccirilli-Hall this week on the Do It For Yourself podcast. Hey there, how's it going? Happy New Year. Welcome to 2020. We are kicking it off with an amazing guest, and I can't wait to bring you this week's episode. Before we get into the episode, I would just like to ask a huge favor. If you are listening to this podcast and you have a couple minutes, you're not driving, I would greatly appreciate it if you could just take a few minutes and leave me a review on whatever app you are currently listening to this podcast. It helps out the show, helps out the reach, and it would mean a lot to me to hear what you think about the show. So this week, my guest is Amanda Piccirilli-Hall, and I got connected with Amanda thanks to one of my followers, Sean, who knows Amanda very well. He reached out and he said, hey man, this is definitely somebody you should check out for the podcast. I love when people do that. I love when people send me recommendations, especially if you've been following me for a while and you've listened to some episodes. You really know what I am looking for in a guest on the podcast. So thank you, Sean, for sending that over. And when I started reading through Amanda's story, I knew right away that she was someone who I would love to sit down and have a conversation with. And Amanda was a collegiate athlete and post-college was having some difficulty kind of finding where to go and what to do. And through running and getting connected with one of her friends doing a half marathon, it started this spark. And that spark has now led her on to marathons, 5Ks, triathlons, Ironman distance triathlons. The list of accomplishments is very long for Amanda's resume. And not only that, but she is also involved with Ainsley's Angels, which is an amazing, amazing foundation that you will hear more about in this episode. So I am really looking forward to sharing this conversation with you. And without further ado, here is my conversation with Amanda. Ready to get going?
Let's do this.
Cool. So thank you so much for having me out today. I really, really appreciate it. When Sean sent me all your stuff, I was like, this is perfect because I could do in person. I love in person. Like I love in person. I don't want to say more than Skype because that's not fair, but I do love sitting across the table and talking with somebody.
Absolutely.
It's just got a different feel than it does when you're sitting, on Skype. So thank you for being open and willing to do that, especially when I'm a complete stranger and you've never met me before. But
welcome to Lansdale.
I appreciate it. And we found out that we have some little connection.
Yep.
There, it could be a little bit deeper, but we're not totally sure. But the first thing that I want to start with this morning is you did the Philly half. So we got to go with that because that's fresh. So just tell me a little bit about the Philly half and how it went this morning. I know it was a chilly start.
Yeah, so Philly half today. I think this is actually the first time I've run the Philly half. I've ran the full twice.
Okay.
So this is the first at the half half distance. And I was super excited to do it because this group, Ainsley's Angels, that I'm with, we get to push people with disabilities in all distance endurance races. There is an athlete who actually lives in Virginia, who isn't even in Pennsylvania, who came up last year for the race, she ran the full, and she loved the crowd so much that she said, I'm coming back in 2019. This year, because of the Freedom Challenge, which is the 8K, the half, and the full, she said, I want to be all in. I'm doing the Freedom Challenge. So luckily, I was able to push her today in the half. Super chilly at the start, but by mile 4, you know how it is. We're all stripping clothes off and getting heated. Plus, when you're pushing someone who's 100 plus pounds and a chair that weighs at least 35, you're breaking a sweat a little bit.
Yeah, I bet.
But yeah, I love that course. Crowd support from the second you leave the start line till you finish is unreal. And I have yet to experience that in a full or a half other than Marine Corps, which I think is wall to wall spectators.
Aside from the bridge, and there's a small section just before you go over the bridge where I didn't see any crowd support, which obviously there's really nowhere for
Yeah.
crowd support on the bridge. But I think I do remember there being like 2 points in the race where it was a hard point because of where you were distance wise.
Right.
It was usually where you would hit a little bit of a block, and then on top of that there were no people there. So I do remember that.
Yeah. And again, I haven't ran that course before, but it was pretty challenging. In the hills in Drexel, up towards Drexel and Fairmount Park, it was definitely a challenging race today. But at the end of the day, I enjoy being able to get Stasia out and about, and this is her sport too. And the crowd loves it, and we feed off their energy. And we had a boom box set up at where her feet sit on her chair. She used to have a little Bose speaker, and her mom said to me, so we've upgraded on a speaker. I hope you don't mind that we bring it. And I said, no, you blast that music the whole time. So it was a party on our chair, and the crowd gets into it. All the other runners get into it. It was so much fun. We had a
That's
great
awesome.
time.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's one that I haven't done full or half. Actually, the only race in Philly that I've done is the Broad Street Run, which always holds a special place for me because it was the first race that I ever did. And it was on a whim. Like I had a friend who was a runner, and she was like, hey, my running partner has a stress fracture in his foot. Do you think you could come do the Broad Street Run like next weekend?
Oh my gosh.
And I'd only run like up to 5 or 6 miles at that point. And she's like, oh, you'll be
Are you
fine.
sure?
I'm like, no, I won't be fine. What do you mean? She's like, okay, well, try and run 8 this weekend, and if you can run 8, you'll be fine for the Broad Street Run. And I was like, oh, okay, whatever. I'll just take your word for it. So I ended up doing it, and I had so much fun at that race. And that's another one where there is crowd support for the entire thing, which is interesting for point to point. But
Yeah.
you go through, it's similar to Philly and I'm assuming New York. I haven't done New York, but New York, you go through all these different neighborhoods,
Right.
and you do the same thing for the Broad Street Run. Like you go through Fishtown, you go through
Yep.
Temple, you go through, and so that's one of those ones. So I'm not surprised. I guess I should say that there's a ton of crowd support coming out for the half and the full.
I think it's definitely relatable to Broad Street, and I agree with you completely. The start to finish on Broad Street's awesome, and I just love the cultures that you get to see in all the pockets of the neighborhoods in Philadelphia. And as you go on, you see, oh, this is the type of people that live in this area, in this area. I think I did Broad Street 5 or 6 times now at this point. In the last few years, I've been with my husband. So I really am glad we get to run that race together, and we make it about us two, and we start together and we fish together, and it's so much fun.
Yeah, I did that one year with my girlfriend as well. She got mad at me because I can't I just can't. I get like in the moment, and when you start to feed off of the energy of the crowd, like you start to run a little bit
Oh,
faster,
yeah.
and she got mad at me. So now we do still try and do it together. We just don't start and finish
No.
together.
Everyone has their own race, and you can't, if someone's trying to make a PR or get a PR or have their own day, you got to let them go. I do a lot of races with friends. I'm a part of a couple of run clubs up in the area here, and we're totally honest about that. If you're having a great day, do not stay with me, or you go unleash, have so much fun. I'll support you at the end, and you have your day.
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to get into how you got into this sport of running and how you became part of all the groups that you're a part of,
Mhm.
from I Run 4 and Ainsley's Angels, because you were an athlete in college.
It
You
was.
played D1 soccer.
Hmm.
So talk to me a little bit about that. Were you always a soccer player and you came up playing soccer and then played soccer on through college?
Yeah, so I definitely started the typical route of everyone who starts soccer. I started 6, 7 years old, and I made my way up through the ranks. I played locally here for the township. And then when I was around 12, we found out there was a select team. So I joined this Upper Bucks select team. It was the best girls from Montgomery and Bucks County. And that was probably the best family I ever could have got right at that age. We played together only a certain time of the year because it was a select team. And when we were, of course, we're not playing with them, we were playing with our club teams, like our travel teams. And the girls on Upper Bucks Select and our coach, he said to us, "Hey, I want to make this a whole year-round thing. I don't want us to only play in the summers. Would you be interested in us starting a premier club team?" So of course, all of us were on board. So pretty much from age 14 through 18, we were highly competitive team, one of the best in the state in Pennsylvania. We traveled everywhere. I don't even know how my parents afforded it, honestly. Hotel rooms, traveling, working all day in school Friday, and then jumping in a car and driving 7 hours to Virginia, me sleeping in the back to have to get up for a Saturday game at 8. Um, that was our life though. And I think growing up playing soccer, especially around the team I was and the relationships I made, and that was the characteristics that were built in me as a person. And, in high school, I couldn't get in trouble because I was always away. Like I was always playing soccer. So I think it says a lot for who I am today and why I am the person I am today. But from there, I was lucky enough. I got a full ride to Loyola in Maryland. So it's a D1 school. I was a goalkeeper.
Okay.
So that's the funny thing. I hated to run, which is the best part.
Yeah.
I was doing short sprints and up and down movements, nothing like our midfielders or forwards are doing. And I used to hate it. We always had a fitness test. It was called the YBMI. You better make it.
Mm-hmm.
So there are 16 tasks in the run, and I think we had to pass 13 of the 16. If not,
Okay.
you had to go to slow camp. And then they made you run treadmill workouts during the morning hours before practice because they didn't think you were fit enough or you weren't coming into preseason. Well, I think I passed my freshman year. Every other year after that, I did not pass it. But I'm like, I'm the goalie. Like I shouldn't be able to keep up with some of these people in some of these times. So Loyola was a very interesting experience for me. I went in as a freshman, didn't expect to play at all. You're going to earn your time and
Right.
earn your right and role. And we were about 4 games in the season, and the starting goalkeeper got injured. So they looked at me and they said, "Hey, Pick, like time for you to suit up and get in there." And I was just waiting. I want to show my worth, why I'm on this team. And from there, I kept the starting role the entire freshman year. I was looking at my stats the other day for something randomly, but I think I had like a .8 goals against average, some crazy numbers. We went to our conference championships. We lost in the semifinals. That was fun. Actually, not the loss wasn't fun, but it was down in Disney World. Every 4 years they have the championship down there.
Okay.
So that we were down there, we lost, but my sophomore year, I came in, I worked out all summer, worked with teams, and I didn't start after preseason. And I said to the coach, like, what I do wrong? Will you just like let me lose my spot? Don't just give it away. And it just didn't happen that way. So my sophomore, junior, and senior year, I got minimal playing time. And it was when you grow up as I was a soccer player. That's how I looked at myself. That's who I was. That created who I was as a person. And then you go into this atmosphere and all of a sudden you're like, well, I'm not starting. I'm not good enough. What's my purpose here? Who am I? And I luckily was able to use those traits that I have as a person, as a leader that I've built over time. I didn't let not playing affect that. So I was a captain my junior and senior year, and I think in the 2 years total, I played 7 games. So it was a tough experience when I was in school saying, okay, soccer isn't everything. I'm not going to graduate from here and play on the national team. That's not where I'm going to end up in life. So that's when I kind of changed my focus at school to say, what are my passions now? What do I like? And that happened to be communications, writing, athletics. So I started to be, worked in the athletic department and worked games. I got to be the stats caller for basketball and lacrosse, which is huge at our school. And I'm thankful I found something there that made me truly happy because I was really down. I used to call my mom crying every day, and she'd say back to me on the phone, she's like, I wish I could do something for you, but I can't. All I can do is kind of just listen. And I thought about transferring. I looked at Temple. I looked and I applied, and after applying, they were like, oh, we're only going to take, I think I was my junior year, and I looked to apply and transfer and play up at Temple. And after looking at all my schooling, they said, oh, well, you're only going to be like a second semester sophomore. And I'm like, well, I'm already like with stats or with credits and everything. So I'm like, I'm just going to hang in there, which I'm so glad I did.
Right.
You know, the friendships I made with the girls at Loyola will last a lifetime. And another thing that goes to show, like, I won our Loyola Unsung Hero Award my senior year through out of every athlete at Loyola. So I'm just a person where I think if you have a positive mindset on life and you move forward, don't let the negative stuff affect you, because there's bigger and better things in life. And if you keep moving forward, showing that commitment, no matter how difficult things get, that's going to show what type of individual you are versus how many games you play and how many saves you make. And it was tough. It was tough, but a huge learning curve.
And I think that there's a lot of people who go through athletics for their entire life, and that's their identity.
Yep.
They're like, well, no, I am a soccer player, or I am a swimmer, I am a runner, and then when it's over, they don't know what to do.
Exactly.
Like, they pick a major through college just to get through college.
Exactly.
Just to get the piece of paper. But really, they're concerned about, well, I'm a football player.
Yep.
Or I'm whatever. And that's their identity. So how did you I know that you were almost forced to take a step back, but how did you come to terms with taking that step back and saying, well, this isn't, yes, I am a soccer player. I love to play soccer, but it's not my identity. And I know that I'm not going to go on after this. I mean, you had the stats.
Yeah.
You were a very good goalkeeper. So
I think it came to the point where I needed to find joy somewhere else at school that wasn't just my teammates. You know, we play together every day. We lived together in dorm rooms. We were together 24/7. And I needed to create a different niche and a different purpose for myself. And that's when I decided, I said, hey, I like to write and I love sports. So why don't I talk to Ryan, who's in the athletic department, and see if he has any type of jobs, anything like that I could help fill them in and support them. And that is truly where, like, I found my passion for that communications field. And I said, oh, this is definitely what I want to do when I get out of school. Ryan was a huge mentor to me in college, and I still respect him and love following him on social media and following his family. And I know he would always be there if I needed something. He's only a call away. I think student athletes now, with the amount of media attention that they have on becoming a professional athlete and how important it is, look at the statistics, though, of how many make it. And that's something that it needs to be instilled into brains when they're in college, because maybe they won't be the number one quarterback in the draft, but they could go to the business school at whatever university they are and graduate with honors and end up on Wall Street and make just as much money probably as what they'd be playing football, which what's your extension of career in that time frame? And again, like, we go into school at 18 and you graduate at 21, 22, and you don't think about what's next and what's ahead. And that's a piece of advice that I would give to any student athlete moving forward. Find what lights a fire within you while you're there that's not just athletics. And a great thing about Loyola too, they were Jesuit university. So giving back and community based, I think that is a lot of why I'm in the seat I'm in today doing the things I'm doing. And it's really funny because people who see my background and the interests I have, they're like, you were definitely a Jesuit institution. I was like, yeah, absolutely. And that was something I didn't grow up Catholic at all. So going to Loyola was something completely different for me. And that was an awesome value that I have brought with me further in my life from college. So definitely looking forward and thinking about other things other than sports. What if you get injured? That's a whole nother
Yeah.
story. So
Mm-hmm.
finding what lights that passion in you. And it's not going to be your cleats forever.
No, it's not. And for some it is,
Sure.
right? Like for some it is. And I know there's a guy that I went to high school with who now plays in the MLB, right? And it's it's crazy. Like it's so, and I it's absolutely amazing. And that's what he wanted, right? But he went to Westchester. Like
Yeah.
he played baseball at Westchester. And then after Westchester, when he graduated, he went down to South Carolina and he played in like Grapefruit League after
Right.
Grapefruit League and was doing homestays with families. And I mean, was just constantly grinding
Yep.
and grinding and grinding. And I I mean, I would have to imagine that the only thing that kept him going was that was his dream.
Sure.
That was his absolute dream to play in the MLB, and he has come back and played. He played against the Phillies,
So
and
cool.
I don't know if it was his first home run of his career or that season. I don't remember what it was. But he did have a home run, like in front of his family and friends and
Exactly.
everybody in Philly, which was really really cool. So, um, after now we're talking about life after,
Yeah.
like the life after college.
Mhm.
So you are done college, and where do you go after college? You're like, okay, well, I'm not going to play soccer anymore, but you were
R-
totally okay with that.
Yep. I
What?
was I was totally okay with that. I knew that there's plenty of summer leagues and adult leagues to keep me active that
Yeah.
way. Um, well, when I was in school, I didn't get a job right out of college. So I actually had a paid internship. And being that I knew that I liked that athletic communications, I was looking at the Patriot League based in Allentown here. And I also looked at the ECAC, which is based on Cape Cod. So I applied to both their internships. I luckily got into both of them. So now I'm like, okay, do I want to live at home with mom and dad and commute to Allentown every day and do the internship there? Or do I want to take a risk and just go somewhere new, experience a different part of the country I've never been in? So that's why I decided to go to the ECAC in Cape Cod. So we went up there. There is 5 Bushnell interns. 4 of us live together in a house. The other intern is actually from the Cape, so he lived at home with his family. And from up there, I was their communications assistant, and everyone's like, "Oh, you were on Cape Cod? Like, it had to have been gorgeous." It's absolutely stunning. It's a gorgeous part of the country. But we were there from, I don't know, late September to early May. So it was dead. Not your
Right.
summers on the Cape,
Yeah.
like it was not like that. And quickly it got to a point where dynamics in the house happened. One girl ended up taking a full-time position, so there was only a few of us left. And it got to the point where I was doing things on my own. I was living in a state that I had no friends other than my coworkers, and I was so depressed. I got so depressed. So what do you do when you're depressed? You eat, you loathe, you feel bad for yourself. And from,
Mhm.
being a D1 athlete who's working out every day, I was not doing that then when I was up on the Cape. And I was doing anything and everything to kind of like get out and explore. And this is where I really truly learned that I can be independent and do things on my own. So I would go to happy hour bars and go to trivia and sit there by myself and play trivia and eat wings and drink beer and do that and then go home and then repeat and do everything like that every single day. If I'm not going out, I'm sitting watching TV. And I just was in such a bad place that I couldn't wait for the internship to be over, which is unfortunate because it was an awesome opportunity and I loved it, but I was so unhappy. So
And was that just based on the location not being close to
I
home?
think I was just
Like,
so lonely. When you go from college and having people around you all the time and they're your friends and you live with them and they're there to talk and hang out or go do whatever. Um I think it was just being like you and your own thoughts in your head and just doing the same Groundhog's Day like every single day while I was up there. Unfortunately, like none of my friends came to visit me. I always had to leave and come down. I still had a bunch of friends in Baltimore, so I would get this cheap, awesome flight for like $49 one way, and I would fly down to Baltimore on weekends and hang out with them, and then go back and do it all over again and count down to the next holiday to come home.
mhm.
And you know, I super personal person. I love going out. I love meeting people, but I was just in such a bad place. There was no help except when is this internship going to be over and where am I going to go next? So, um, after the internship was rolling down and ending, I was looking at communications types jobs, but athletic wise. But I said to myself, I want to be in the Mid-Atlantic region. I love my family. I love my friends. I don't want to go too far away. And a lot of people who are in athletic communications, you start out in Kansas and Wisconsin,
Mm-hmm.
and I just wasn't willing to do that. So I got lucky. Loyola, their assistant coach, goalkeeping coach, was leaving. So they said, hey, do you want to come down and coach? We'd love to have you. So I said, absolutely, I'll come down. I'll love to be in Baltimore. My friends were still there. Let's get my personality back and
Right.
live the happy life again. And I went down, and it just wasn't like the glitz and glam that I was expecting. I was having plenty of fun. I loved coaching. And then in December of that year, my grandma passed away. And that was enough where I got the call. I heard that happen, and I said, I'm leaving. I'm packing my bags up and I'm going home. Family means way too much to me. I'm too far away. I'm still not happy. So that is when I decided, I was ready to make a shift in life and come back to my roots. And hopefully that would help clear my head and bring me back to the old Amanda that I was, and get back into a better groove of things.
And when you were coming back, you packed your bags after your grandmother passed away, and you were coming back here, but you had nothing here aside from this was home.
Right.
Like there was no job here, there was nothing here, and you didn't have a plan either.
No, I was of course connecting with people from back up this way to see what jobs existed and what I could do, and I randomly wrote an email to the editor of the local newspaper here. I did an internship with them over the summer. That was my major. I was a journalism degree, communications with journalism, and I loved my internship up here. I had a great time, and I wrote Nona an email out of the blue. Hey Nona, just saying hi, reconnecting. If you happen to have anything come through, just think of me and let me know. And she wrote me back and said, we actually had someone leave today. Would you be willing to, to come in and work in 2 weeks? Yeah, because I'm coming home and I have no other plans. Sure. So I got pretty lucky moving home right away, that I had something lined up on the fast end of things. And I was just ready to be back here and
start the rebuild.
Yes, 100%.
So you start the rebuild aside from getting your job situation under control.
Mm-hmm.
Then what is your next step? What is next to getting you back to the Amanda that you wanted to be before internship at, Cape Cod?
Sure.
And how did you get back there? Because you were in Baltimore where you made a ton of friends,
Mm-hmm.
and that didn't bring you back.
Right.
And obviously things in the Cape, it wasn't meant to be.
Right.
That didn't bring you back. So now you're back home.
Yep.
What did you do, and how did you kind of get back?
So I pretty much said to myself, I'm like, you need to reevaluate life and what is going to bring joy to your heart and make you feel like you have purpose. So right before I moved back from Baltimore, my roommate at the time said to me, hey, I'm going to sign up for this half marathon. Do you want to run with me? And, me being like, oh, yeah, I was a D1 athlete. Like, let's sign up for it.
A D1 athlete, but you hated running.
Exactly.
So I still don't see the connection here.
So I'm like, yeah, sure, whatever. And so I signed up for the half with her. I had ample training time to plan. I did not put in the work at all. So before you know it, race day is here, and I'm like, okay, let's tie up the shoes and let's do this and let's have some fun with it. It was the Blue and Gray half marathon in Virginia. Hard course. Well, maybe it wasn't that hard, but in my mind today, thinking back at it, I was like, that was the most terrible race ever. I don't even know what my finish time was, probably close to 3 hours at the time. And my feet were hurting so bad for a week and a half later because I was wearing terrible shoes. And I was like, this is the dumbest decision and choice that I've ever made in my life. But there was something about it that I liked. And I think it was because growing up as a soccer player, I liked having competition, goals to look for, a goal to obtain and to achieve. And I kind of got that bug. I got that running bug. So from there, I started doing a couple 5Ks here and there and would go out on runs when I felt like it. And when I came back home, I was connected with a high school friend, and she said, "Hey, I volunteer with special needs. Do you have any interest in volunteering your time?" And it was for their long distance running and walking team. So pretty much cross country for
Mm-hmm.
Special Olympics. So I said, "Yeah, sure. Like, let's go out." And from there, I just realized like my passion for the special needs community and my passion for running and getting more into that and focusing my mindset into that. At that time, when I came back home and I settled in, I was playing in adult pickup leagues and had a blast with it. But then I started signing up for races, and I'm like, I'm going to get injured. Like, I can't afford to break my ankle at an indoor soccer game that I'm not losing my entry fee. I don't have enough money to begin with right now,
Right.
being right out of college. So I kind of put soccer on the back seat, which is crazy to think about because that was my passion for so long.
Yeah.
And I just don't have that there. Like, my heart's just not in it. And it happened to shift towards running. So here I was back at home and working with the special needs community. And all of a sudden, that same individual said, "Hey, have you heard of this Facebook group called I Run For?" And I was like, "No, what is it?" And she goes, "It's a Facebook group where runners," and at that time it was mainly runners, "but they pair you with someone with special needs, and they're pretty much like your pen pal buddy. Do you want to sign up?" I was like, "Yeah, send me all the information. Sounds awesome. That'll keep me motivated to keep
Mm-hmm.
running, something to look forward to every day." So here I go. I sign up for a buddy, and there's this huge wait list because there's so many runners and not enough buddies.
Which is great.
Awesome problem to
Exactly.
have.
Exactly. I mean, that is way, way better than the reverse
Right.
of too
Not
many
having
buddies
enough.
and not enough runners.
Right. So this group was just newly started. Word was getting out about it. And I waited 6 months. And then finally I got that email that's like, "You've been paired." And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, yes." So I go on Facebook and I look. And because a lot of these people with disabilities are either children or whatnot, we're communicating through their parents.
Mm-hmm.
So I get an email and it goes, "You've been paired with Pam Dennehy and your buddy's name is Liam." So what's the first thing I do? I Facebook stalk and I pull Pam up and look at her. And I knew right from the get go, I was like, I'm sitting next to my mom. I'm like, "Mom, my buddy is from Europe somewhere. I know he's from Europe." And I was expecting to have a buddy from like cool from California or Florida. I'm like, "Oh, because you watch this I Run For page and eventually runners meet their buddies." And I'm like, "That'd be so cool to travel to California to meet my buddy." And then before you know it, my buddy's in Europe. And I thought he was English at first. And then I fully realized later, like soon after, that he's from Ireland. And I said to my mom, I was like, "I'm going to offend her. I can't tell her that I thought she was English." And right off the bat from there, uh, it was constant communication. And every single workout I do it for him. I post selfies, I send pictures. And it was just the thing that I needed in my heart to keep me motivated and driven. And it was some stranger, some little boy who's an absolute stranger
Mm-hmm.
across the world from me happened to do it. And that's just what I needed. And I was like starting to get back into that old Amanda again. And I started realizing my purpose is to give back. I should volunteer. I need to give my time. Like, that's where I'm finding joy in things. It's not going out late with friends anymore. It's not um it's not soccer anymore. It happens to be this. So it was so cool to find that group and really spark everything for me back in life.
And I think that's important because there's times where that happens to people and they're not getting the joy out of whatever it is that they used to get the joy out of, and they think it's them, right? And
Mm-hmm.
they think that there's a problem, and then they're constantly trying to solve for this issue
Right.
when it's just not the thing that's bringing you the joy
Right.
anymore. And it happens, like
Yep.
it totally happens. You absolutely loved soccer,
Yep.
but you somehow came to the realization that I'm enjoying running
Yep.
more now
Yep.
than I am soccer.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's something that's important to note, and it's not a bad thing.
Yeah.
Like there's no, you shouldn't be scared of it. You shouldn't be worried about it, but just know that it can happen.
Absolutely.
You can lose interest in things, and it's okay.
Yep.
It's totally okay. When you grow up, you start to lose interest in things. Like, that's totally fine.
Yeah.
I just think that that's something that's really, really important to note there. But I also think that your interest to give back also came from school. Like, I think that came from Loyola. Like, I think that there was definitely, I don't want to say that it was ingrained in you at Loyola, but I think that it was planted. It was there.
Yep.
And just having the opportunity for those two paths to cross, the running and the giving back,
Yep.
I think is what it took, but I think it was there.
I'm a true believer that everything happens for a reason, and there's a reason I went to that school and went through those struggles and learned the lessons I learned. And looking back on it, it was because of those values that they teach at Loyola. And it's, at the time you're 20 and you're 21 years old and you're not really thinking about it. And all of a sudden now, like at 32, I look back and I'm like, just like you said, like these are things that I was soaking in, whether I was actively volunteering or not, but I was surrounded by individuals, like-minded individuals who believe in the same beliefs that I never knew I really had, but now have. So I completely agree with you on that there was a reason.
Mm-hmm.
There's a reason all of this has happened.
Well, and you were in that environment.
Yeah.
Like, you were in that environment and you were exposed to it, which is how college goes, right? Like, when you go to college, that's what's happening. You're being exposed to so many different environments.
Right.
Yes, you're going to school, which you've done for the last 12, to 18 years of your life.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's a given, but you're being exposed to different cultures, different people, different habits.
Yep.
There's just all these things, and part of that process was that you were exposed to giving back.
Yep.
So I think that part of me thinks that ultimately it would have happened somehow, because it's something that was definitely inside of you, but Loyola just helped push it forward.
I agree. I think you're completely right.
So you have your running buddy, Liam, and as you said, sometimes people get a chance to meet their running buddy.
Yep.
And you have the chance to meet Liam.
Yep.
And was it your idea, or was it someone else's idea to run with him? Because you got a chance to run with him, right?
I did. So, the conversation started. We were, I think, 2 years into, we call our matchiversary. And after talking with his mom every day, I was like, I want to come meet you guys. It's much easier for me, one single person, to go. Taylor couldn't come at the time. And I said, I can get to you. You have a family of 6. You can't come to the United States as much as I want you here. But we finally planned it and we figured it out. And I went over St. Patrick's Day time, which was so awesome to experience
I
there.
bet, but probably a little nerve-wracking too.
It was incredible. So we book a trip for 10 days. And thinking about going, I got this spark in my mind because on the I Run 4 page, I kept seeing this organization called Ainsley's Angels pop up every once in a while. And at that time, there was this father-son. So Ainsley's Angels is a nonprofit where able-bodied athletes use their legs to push people with disabilities in endurance races. So anything from a 5K, 10K, marathon, triathlons, that's their mission. It's all about the mission of inclusion, getting people off sidelines and over finish lines. That's like my favorite thing to say about the organization. And I kept seeing this father-son duo, and they were running across the United States with a chair. So the father was pushing his son in a chair, and they started in Washington and they were ending in Coney Island. And they took, it was some unreal time. I think it's 35 days. It was a little over a month that they did this. Along the way, they were granting these running chariots to families across the country as they would make stops into towns. And I was like, wait a minute. There are people out there who push people like Liam in races, and I just don't know about it. So out of a whim, before our trip to Ireland, I decide to reach out to their president. He goes by Rooster, Kim Rooster Rossiter. And I write him an email and I explain who I am. I found you on the I Run For page. I'm going to Ireland to meet my buddy. I would love to push him in a race. Can I just borrow? I said, can I borrow a chair, bring it, and bring it back? And I promise I won't destroy it. Just trust me.
And for those who are listening,
Mhm.
because actually I went through Westchester's health and phys ed program.
Mhm.
I went through their program where they have camp abilities and they do all this stuff. So I know, but for those who are listening,
Mhm.
just explain the basic cost of one of these chairs, because this is not your typical.
No, it's
And
not your like typical Bob stroller, like running stroller. It's that running stroller, but on steroids a little bit. We have a basic model that can fit someone up to 6 feet tall and 200 pounds. That is just an advanced version of a running stroller. Any mom out there or dad out there who runs think it's just a little more to it, and that starts at $1,000. So, and then from there, we have, different other levels up to like our Cadillac version, and they cost $5,000. And they're all, I don't know if they're aluminum or stainless steel, but regardless, handcrafted, molded, bent, painted. And I was just asking for the basic. I was like, I just want that blue chair that I keep seeing all over Facebook. Can I borrow that? It folds down. It's very compact. Can I get that? So all of a sudden, 2 hours later, my phone rings and it's a Virginia Beach cell phone number. And I'm like, I know Rooster lives in Virginia. Oh my gosh, is this guy calling me right now? So he calls me. Hey Amanda, I'm Rooster. I'm with Ainsley's Angels and I got your email. I said, "Oh, great." So, we start talking. He wants to know how I know about the organization, and it continues and he goes, "I just want to let you know I'm going to give you a chair to bring to Ireland. That's not a problem at all." And I go, "Oh my," like right there I'm freaking out that this is all happening. This is all taking place and it's moving. And then he continues the conversation, says, "Hey, I don't know if you're aware of who we are and what we do, but we have ambassadorships all across the country and we don't have one in Pennsylvania right now. Would you maybe be interested in starting this?" And he explains to me that our ambassadorships are built by runners and riders, and the ambassadors is the one who reaches out to local race directors to get permission, because we can't just show up to any race we want to participate in. That's not who we are. We're about safety, communication, educating, and advocating. So we reach out to these race directors, say who we are, how we can bring joy to everyone on the race course if you allow us to come and push these individuals, and then we make a schedule from there. So he's giving me all the basics about what ambassadors do and goes, "So, do you want to be our first Pennsylvania ambassador? Can we get you up and rolling in Southeast PA?" So I didn't even, when you have like a phone interview and you get the job and you say, "Oh, I just want to think about it and I'll give you a call back tomorrow." Like, I didn't even say any of that. I said yes, like right off the bat. I said, "Yes, I am in and this is happening." And he's like, "Oh, great. So you're on board and we'll be in touch soon. I'll send you an email." And before you know it, we hang up the phone and I call my mom and I'm like crying hysterically. I'm like, "You'll never guess what happened, but nothing ever felt so more right than that conversation." That was what I needed. And it's crazy that even happened and came into my life, because that's my two passions. That's running, that's special needs community. I can make an impact in the community I live in. Like, this was perfect and at the perfect time that I needed it. And that's the history of how we are here today.
And so what year was that?
That
Like
was,
how long after you moved back home?
yep. So graduated in 9 to 10 was Cape Cod, and then 10 to mid 11 I was back home. So early 2011 I was back in the area, and this conversation took place in fall of 2014, and I was planning on going to Ireland in spring of 2015. So quick kind of turnaround, but still 2 years of figuring out who I am, what I want, what I'm doing. And at that time, 2014, I'm mid 20s at this point, and it was just just felt right. It just
Mhm.
was what I wanted. And I didn't second guess a second of saying yes to him, which to this day now I look back that I can't believe who I am today because of that conversation, which is incredible.
But because of the running as well.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you are, and we'll talk about what you're really doing and your role for Ainsley's Angels, but you're part of Ainsley's Angels. You're still part of I Run For
Mm-hmm.
with Liam. And then when you're not pushing in a race for one of those two, you're training on your own.
Mm-hmm.
You're training for half Ironmans. You did Ironman Maryland this year.
Yeah.
I mean, so how are you balancing all of these things? I know some of the training probably has a crossover, so if you're training for Ironman Maryland or a half Ironman, some of the running is
Sure.
going to help you for some of the pushing that you're doing.
Yeah.
But I would also assume that if you're going to push for a half marathon
Mm-hmm.
like you did this morning, you have to train for that.
Yeah.
You have to train. You have to practice pushing. You
Yep.
you can't, just like that first half marathon where you're like, yeah, I'll sign up. I'll do it. And then you get there, you can't show up to. I would imagine you can't even show up to just a 5K to push and have never done it before.
So on the 5K front, that's something that a lot of people who sign up to be a part of our organization say, like, I've never done this before. Am I going to be fine? Am I going to be okay? We never want to deter someone to say, no, like, you can't do it in a 5K, because I can't explain it to you until you actually experience it yourself. But the drive and the passion that when you look down at that chair and those people sitting in that chair gives you on race day, like I said, I can't verbalize it. They are what powers you through it. And I think the 5K, 10K, that's doable. We have multiple runners on a chair at a time, so you switch back and forth, so you're not running the entire time by yourself unless you want to. You're more than welcome to, but we pair you with another runner that's your exact pace. So, I would never pair a 7-minute mile to a 13-minute mile. That's just not going to make sense
Are there
on.
people who can run a 7-minute mile
Yes.
pushing?
Yes.
Okay.
The Sean and Seamus that ran across the country,
I was gonna say, well,
they run the Marine Corps Marathon, and the runners, the elites and the fastest runners, don't catch them until about mile 15, 16.
That's crazy.
It's insane.
Yeah.
Boggles my mind. But going back to the whole training, in 2015, that was the year we started our ambassadorship here in Southeast PA. And I learned that Marine Corps Marathon, Ainsley's Angels, is a charity partner for them. So I just felt it was right as this new ambassadorship to show we're here and to make everyone proud. I said, hey, I want to go do Marine Corps and I want to push an athlete. So I reached out to our riders who are newly to our organization, and this boy Dylan, I asked him and his family, and they said, yeah, we're totally on board. So I spent what would be a normal marathon training cycle, and what I did is I took a chair out with me for all of my long runs, not usually my short runs during the week, but the runs on the weekend, I loaded that with 150 pounds of sand, because I had to simulate his weight. If I was going to go that distance, there's
Right.
no way that would have happened without doing that. So I was that crazy one on the Schuylkill River Trail on weekends where everyone's looking at me at an empty chair, but I made it fun because I dressed it up in clothes and I put his head on a stick. So it looked like him, that he was in the chair with me. And I'm super big into documenting my journeys during all my training cycles, all my races. And I never want people on social media to be like, "Oh, Amanda, she's bragging about the run she had." Like, that's not it. That's accountability to me. Like, I love being able to bring people on and make them feel like they're a part of it. And like, that's something I did for Ironman Maryland this year, which I love to do. And so many people were like, I felt like I was there with you, and like they were anticipating the finish line just as much as I was. But yes, you need to train, you need to practice, and as ambassadors, we will help whoever wants to accomplish a goal like that. We'll do whatever we need to do, but I do not encourage anyone to just go out and run a half or a full pushing a rider athlete because you will be sore the next day.
Yeah, well, and but at the same time, you have to you have to do the run training
Oh,
too,
yeah.
you know? So it's kind of like you're almost doing double the work when it comes to doing a race where you're going to be pushing
Yeah.
because you have to be in shape for the running
Mhm.
portion, but you also have to then do the practice. So how do people practice? Like I know you said you had a chair and you were loading it up with
Yep.
150 pounds, but for somebody who just wants to get into it and
Mhm.
just wants to push for, a half marathon or whatever it is, are there opportunities for them to practice with the chair like you did for your long runs?
Yeah, absolutely. So if as ambassadors, we're happy to lend chairs out. So, I always go to people's homes, especially for new riders. Their parents are kind of hesitant on who we are and what we do. And I get it. You're trusting a complete stranger to go take your kid out for 3+ miles, and I don't know who you are. So I like to go to their houses individually, introduce ourselves, give them a spin around the neighborhood just to see how they feel. We do the same exact thing for our runners. So I'm happy to drop a chair off, let them use it for however long they want, as long as they take care of it. But we also suggest, ask your neighbor next door who has a kid, can I just borrow their normal stroller and then throw some weight in there? Like whether it's books, your own kid that might be 4, 5, 6, throw them in there, start practicing with them. It bonds families more than you probably think it would because some runners rely on their children to help
Mhm.
them train a little bit. So we just try to say whatever you do to get creative. That's like the biggest thing. And upper body strength, of course, we encourage lifting, working on the row machine a lot, helps out a lot. Um, but it's like I said, if you're only looking at that smaller distance, totally doable. No training, never doing it before. Don't be scared. No one is going to leave you out to dry. We always put a veteran with one of our new angels on because we want them to learn from the best that have
Mhm.
been there the longest. So the typical upper body training, late weightlifting is definitely a way to start for sure. And then it's starting to get creative and how you can use all the things in your house to load something up to pull for a little while on your runs.
And so why are you pursuing Ironman, half Ironman on your own and doing this at the same time?
Yeah. So my one girlfriend, Janice, she started getting into triathlon and she asked me for years to try one with her. And I was like, like I'm good. Like, not, I don't mind the water. I don't mind a bike. That's fine. I just wasn't really ready for it.
Mhm.
And then finally she said, come on, will you please just try with me? So there was a circuit at the time called Iron Girls. It was an all women's sprint try. It was out in New Jersey. And I said, okay, I'll grab a bike. I didn't have a real decent bike to ride at the time. So I went to the local bike shop, just said, I want something basic that'll help get me through. Swam a couple times at the gym and the local high school where I could get some time. And there is just something about the sport of triathlon that you feel that energy and the people that I walked away that day and I said, this is it. Like, this is awesome. And this is a challenge. And I think being that I am that goal oriented mindset back from being a soccer player, that was at the time, like, I did a marathon, I did a half marathon. Like, what is next in my own personal journey in fitness? And it was the sport of triathlon. And from there, all of the tries I've done have been solo. I've done, like you said, I've done everything from a sprint to an Ironman this year.
Mhm.
Um, and I don't know if that just set me. Ainsley's is not about me. It's about those riders who are in the chair. I want to make sure they have the best experience. This is me giving my legs, but it's their day. And I think triathlon was where I was said, okay, this is for me. Like, triathlon's for me. Ainsley's is for the community, the group, the organization. So I liked kind of having my own personal goals and then my goals with like my Ainsley's family.
I was gonna say, is it balancing it out? Because you don't want to be the same way for when it was soccer.
Hmm.
You don't the way you didn't want to be all in on soccer. I think it's the same now. You don't want to be all in on one side or the other because it may create an imbalance for you. And so having triathlon for you and then having Ainsley's Angels, it kind of balances you out, and you have this ability to set goals and crush them on the personal side, but then you probably have that same opportunity on the Angel side as well.
Yeah, I definitely think that is the way my life works and how I look at sport for myself now. But I think also on the triathlon side of things, that's hard enough doing it on my own. The thought of bringing someone with me scares me. It scares the life, the
Have you
daylight
seen
out of
like
me.
the Kona videos where
Oh,
they start in the swim and they
oh,
put them in a boat in the
yeah.
swim, and then they tow them
And they're my
in the
friends from Ainsley's Angels who
it's
do
in
that, which is
yeah,
incredible.
yeah.
And I give them credit. Like, I'm thinking about my own self of getting through the bike alone on my own. I'm like, okay, the run I can do, that's fine. And I don't know how, but I'm a really great swimmer. So I'm like, I could get through that. It's the bike that terrifies me, that I'm knowing I have to tow someone who's X amount of pounds, whoever that is. I haven't been in the mindset yet that I want to go into that yet.
Can you do a relay?
You can, some races.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure. But that's like one of my goals for 2020 is I'm bringing a rider. It's happening. I'm not going to be a full any Ironman distance, but I just want to do a sprint.
Mm-hmm.
And there's another man locally who's a part of our ambassadorship. He's been doing them with riders for a while now. And, I have so much joy in that sport that I'm ready to bring someone else in with me. And I think 2020 is the year that I'm going to do it. And I've been looking at races already and seeing how I can involve them a little bit. But most of my race calendar where it's about me, it's triathlon and just myself. And everyone needs to be a little selfish sometime. And I'm okay with that.
Well, and triathlon is on the other side of it. Triathlon's a very selfish sport, so it's nice that you have that counterbalance where you're giving back so much as well, when you can potentially take a lot for the sport of triathlon. I mean, I know even from personal experience, it's a very selfish sport.
Yeah.
It is, and if you don't have people surrounding you that understand that and are willing to commit with you on that, it can be very difficult, not only just on you, but on the others around you, for
Absolutely.
sure. What if you had to pick, what would your favorite finish line be? From both. One from the push side, one from triathlon side.
I think my favorite finish line was, so I did end up bringing a chair to Ireland and I raced with Liam. It was a 5 miler in the local town there. And that was the first they've ever seen inclusion running ever there. They had a man there that Facebook friended me prior to the race. So word must have been getting around town that I was coming. There's Americans coming and doing this. And he friend requested me, and he's actually a hand wheelchair participant. So it was really cool to talk to him beforehand and hear how he's involved. And then we got to start. The way it works is we always start in the beginning corral before the runners. And it's just mostly because of safety. We want to get out and ahead and to the side, because if we start in the later corral, we're going to clip heels, hit people. What if I'm faster than the people that are in front of me? It just doesn't make sense. So it was so cool to line up line to line at the start line with him on race day. But that race in Ireland, his family's joy of seeing Liam get to do something, and his brothers are active. He's got 3 other brothers and they're active in their own sport and their own thing, but that day was about him. And we GoPro'd like the entire race together, which was so cool, and the crowd was into it, and it was such a special moment that I will never forget it ever. And it didn't rain for 9 days in Ireland while I was there, which is unheard of. It rains every day. Like, Pam's like, there's a shower every single day. It didn't rain one day while I was there. We literally crossed the finish line, and 15 minutes later it rained. And I'm like, the universe is sad that this is my last day. Like, we raced the race. I got dressed. We went back to the house, we ate dinner quick, and I was off to the airport. And that was Friday night, and I left that night to go home. So just the whole thing was epic. That was definitely the most epic thing, probably for Ainsley's Angels. And then outside of that, my Ironman Maryland, without a doubt. Everyone who says you do your first Ironman, that first red carpet experience, and they were right on the money. no one was around me coming in, which was amazing. So I kept looking behind, turning my head as I was coming down the main street to get to the finisher chute. And I was like, how am I by myself? Like, I'm going to get my whole moment, but you dream of this moment. Like, that's
Yeah.
what during training, anyone who's doing a full, there's plenty of times where I'm thinking about yourself coming down that finisher chute, and that it was there and happening in front of me was great. But with a few friends who have done fulls, they gave me some advice. They said, take your time coming in, make sure you soak it up. And my one girlfriend said, make sure you find your husband and kiss him and say thank you before you go over the finish line. So
Mm-hmm.
I made sure I did that. And my mom volunteered throughout the day, and she volunteered at the slot to be at the finish line while my time would be coming in. So I got to cross the finish line, and she was my first hug, and she got to medal me, and it was incredible.
And I'm sure emotional. I
Oh,
mean, I'm
oh
sure
my gosh.
because
Crossed over.
but it's a culmination of how many months and months of training and sacrifice, and I mean, there's
Mhm.
just so much that goes into it, and I feel like you start to realize that when you see the red carpet,
Oh
but
yeah,
then it's just a flood of
for sure.
emotions. I don't know personally. I've never done a full
But
before,
even
so
doing a half, it's
oh,
still
I've
that epic
experienced it.
experience. And
And there is nothing that can compare to seeing that Ironman red carpet, because I did a half when it was challenge. And yes, I felt this amazing energy as I was coming into the finish, but I remember from the year that it was challenged to the year that it shifted over to Ironman,
right.
there's just no comparison. That's why people pay the money
Oh yeah.
for those races. That's why people have it tattooed. It's just there's just
Guilty.
nothing. Oh, and I mean, I would too. I've already thought about I want to do a half. Like I want to do a half tattoo
Yeah.
that can be then
Filled in.
filled in. Yes. Um but it's just there's nothing that compares
And
to, and I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's the brand. I don't know if it's the energy that that brand brings. I don't know.
I I think a lot of it is, so during 9 months of training, you need motivation, obviously. My biggest thing is, when I say talk to other athletes who do it and they say they want to sign up, and I go, well, do you know what your why is? What's your why? Like, why do you want to do this race? Do you want to just say, oh, because I did an Ironman, amazing accomplishment? Sure. If that's your why, that's your why. But like, dig deep in you. Like, what is your why and why you're going to show up on race day? And I think something someone told me is they're like, your actual Ironman race is the victory lap.
Hmm.
You've done so much work leading up to that, that that is a day that you just need to enjoy. Try to enjoy. It's going to be a long day. I knew that. I knew I was anywhere between that 14 to 16 hour, depending on how great my day was and what hiccups I would come across. And my coach, excuse me, said to me, you are going to have moments that you're not expecting, and it's how you react to them will play out on how your day ends. And I think, just like myself, I know there are other people who during training, like, I would not even during training, like I would be at work or on the train ride home, and like all of a sudden you start thinking about it, and then I'm like welling up because I'm thinking, like, you think about that red carpet, like that's your end goal, and it's the lights and everyone. I feel like there's always a party in the back, hence being a not that fast of a runner. So I feel like there's always a party in the back. But that finish line, when you hit like 14 hours through 17 hours, it is nuts. And they are hype and hollering and music. And I can remember them all beating along the boards on the side. And you're just like,
And they
this,
have the little things
yes,
too. Yeah.
like you watch the YouTube videos, and like those YouTube videos are legit. Like that is every Ironman finish line experience. And everyone says Maryland's a small race. It is. It's not a let's say a Mont Tremblant like race or a Lake Placid.
Arizona,
Like,
Florida,
yeah,
like
all of them. It's not the same size, but I did not think my finish line experience was any less than probably what someone else is on that race day.
hmm.
And being that I could see my family, saw that all my friends were there, I knew this was my moment. Like, you can't explain the joy and happiness, and it is definitely number 2 best day of my life, without a doubt. Let's do it again. No, I'm just kidding. Everyone always says your first one's always the best one. Your first Ironman finish is the one that stands out to you the most, which I'm sure they're right.
You go in with zero expectations.
None.
But now you have an expectation.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, okay, well, I did it in 15:53. Like, could I get closer to 15 and a half? Could I get closer to 15 flat? Like, what could I do? Where was I?
So
that's when it starts.
I joke with friends about that, about how I feel like endurance athletes were like semi messed up in the head a little bit, because I finished and I was mad because I got two flats on the bike. 2. And that cost me like 50 minutes to change them. I'm not good at changing a tire. Mm-hmm. I was so thankful. There was two random people the first time and 2 random people the second flat that came in and saved me. I call them my Iron Angels, because without them, I probably would still be crying on the side of the road waiting for the SAG to like help me. But that's like how crazy like we are. Like I finished the race and I was like, well, I would have hit my goal time of what I expected my day to be if I like didn't have those flats. But like I should have just been happy I finished and I made it in the cutoff time. Right. Amanda, stop. Like live in this moment and enjoy it. And I remember a couple days after the race, I said to my coach, I was like, this is just bothering me. Like can I do this, but faster next time? And he's like, Amanda, like your next race, it could be something different. You could have GI issues. You could have got kicked in the head in the swim. Like be happy. And I was happy. Do not get me wrong. Like I'm so happy with the effort, but like that's the endurance athlete and like competitive person in us. We're like, we could have done better. And how could I have done it? Could I have been a little faster in transition? Like, but again, it is a journey that I hope everyone, I don't care what distance or what race it is, but to be able to commit yourself and be all in makes you learn so much about yourself. I think the journey itself was so rewarding that the race was just kind of the icing on the cake at the end of the day. A really long day, but worth it.
And I would say that it's like that for any distance race.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
The race is always your victory lap, and that's, and there's people who are super competitive and they show up, and if it's not their day, then it's ruined. Like it's a bad day. But if you've never done the sport before and you have even just this little like, maybe I could, I would say go for it. Like I would say go for it and sign up for a race and see what happens, because I think that this is a sport that can pull people in very, very easily, and it's just so much fun. It's so much fun.
And like when I talked about, using social media and sharing my story, that's something that I really am committed on showing people that you don't have to look a certain way, be a certain size, be a certain weight, be anything. Like you can accomplish big ass scary goals if you are willing to put in the time and the work for it. And that's something that I preach that. And I love that, my friends who are in my run club, they don't do triathlon at all. Like 5 of them have signed up for tries this year. And they were like, you inspired me to be able to be like, I can do this. And that's crazy to me. Cause I'm like, I don't think I'm that inspirational. Like I'm just a person going out and doing my thing, but I want people to believe in themselves, like be the best version of yourself. And that's just something that no matter how many times I say it or how many times I post about it, I hope people truly find their worth within themselves and realize that I can do this. Like I can do this. Amanda did it. She doesn't look at the part at all, but she did it. And that's cool. That's the cool thing about the running world and the triathlon world. No one looks the same. And you look at magazines and you see the people on the covers. And I'm like, well, people get scared because they're like, oh, well, I don't want to sign up for a 5K because I don't look like that woman who was on whatever Runners mag.
World mag.
Yeah. And like, love Runner's World. Like, no hate against any brand out there. It's just, we have to be inclusive, like in everything. And that's why, like, from Ainsley's Angels side to my my own focus on what I do, like it isn't about inclusion, including everyone. And I will tell anyone that if you want to get started, I'm happy to help you and let you know where I started and how multiple other people have started, but you have to put your shoes on and go. Go. And my other big rant that I say to people and what I say to them all the time is, when it comes to Ainsley's Angels, some of these individuals would do anything to take one step on their own, or a bike pedal, or a stroke in the water, and they can't. So I get to help them do that. And for you to realize the bigger picture in life, that you're given the gift of mobility, that's huge. That's so many people can't, like, you can take that, don't take that for granted. People would die to do that. So those two huge things are a lot of what I preach and how I try to motivate people and inspire people. And it's pretty cool when someone writes you a message back and said, like, thank you, that hit home for me. Like, I'm going to get off the couch now and I'm going to go out for a run because I didn't want to, but I can. That's just huge.
So I want to take a minute just to say thank you once again for having me out.
Absolutely.
And I want to give you a chance to let people know where they can find you if they just want to follow your journey, if they want to get in touch with you for Ainsley's Angels, whatever it is. So I want to give you that chance to let people know where they can find you.
Sure. So I'm on Instagram and my handle is at Manda, Manda, Piccirilli, Piccirilli. You can follow me in my fitness journey and everything that I'm doing in life, and let's be friends, because I love being cheerleader and I want someone to be cheerleader for me just as much as I am for you. So you can find me there. And then to get involved with Ainsley's Angels, we have 70 ambassadorships across the country. And we're in 33 states and Washington, D.C. So if you happen to be listening to this outside of Pennsylvania, we're around, we're rolling everywhere. And you can go to Ainsley'sAngels.org and find the full list of all the ambassadorships that we are located in.
Cool. Awesome. And the last thing that I want to ask you is, what does it mean to you to be doing it for yourself?
To be doing it for myself is the fact that, if we say this all the time, if you don't put your life mask on first, you can't help others. So for me to focus and get myself in the right headspace allows me to give back and contribute and give to others, which I wouldn't be able to do. So focusing on yourself and then focusing on everyone else around you. That's what it means.
Perfect. Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much.
So that is it. That is my conversation with Amanda. And I would just like to take a minute and say thank you. Thank you for coming and hanging out with us, spending some time, allowing us to enter in through your earbuds or your car speakers and share this amazing story of Amanda's journey on how she's doing it for herself. If you enjoyed this episode, or you enjoy any of the episodes here on the Do It For Yourself podcast, please do me a favor and share the show with a friend. Share it with a family member. Share it with someone who you think is also going to enjoy this conversation. If you think of it and you have a minute, please leave a review wherever it is you are listening to podcasts. The reviews help me out a ton, and I also really enjoy reading your reviews and what you think of the show. That is all I have for this week. I am looking forward to sharing another episode on this podcast with you next week, and I hope that you come back.